name is Artem. A fortnight ago, my best friend Bones disappeared. His last contact was a voicemail. Bro, you won't believe what's going on here. They're all hell. I have to leave. If I don't get in touch, come. Initially, I assumed he was just drunk. But when after 3 p.m. he didn't answer, and I decided to act on one call, I learned from his parents that he went to some remote village called Logovaya, looking for abandoned houses that can be bought cheaply. Now I'm standing at the entrance to this village. It seems ordinary wooden houses, chickens running around the yards. An old woman at the counter is sorting beans, but as soon as I get out of the car, I notice something strange. Everyone smiles, not easily, their faces frozen in a wide, unnatural grin. Even that grandmother, who was sitting on the lafta, stared at me for a smile from ear to ear. I went to heaven and said something incredibly funny. "You're welcome, honey," she says, but her voice doesn't match her expression at all. He is hoarse, sad, bright, Vayu. A chill runs down his back as he makes his way beyond the village, but I convince myself that this is just some local strangeness. Maybe they have a custom here. The main thing is to find Kostya. I go into a small shop on the outskirts. A young man stands behind the counter and smiles too. "Hello," I say. "Listen, my friend Kostya came here. He didn't get in touch. You didn't see him." The guy nods. His smile doesn't move. "Saw, of course," he answers in a too cheerful voice. "He rented a house from Petrovich, but he's already gone." The guy blinks where he went, his smile widening. "We all leave sooner or later. I can feel my palms getting coated with sweat." "May I see the house?" He takes it off, hands me the key. "Just be careful. People here don't like strangers. Strangers to those who don't smile yet." I grab the key and leave, trying not to run away. The house that Kostya rented stands at the end of the street. An ordinary hut inside is dusty. But you can see that someone recently lived here. On the table, his backpack lying around. His phone is dead. And then I notice a mirror in the corner. And then my brain refuses to understand what I'm seeing in the mirror. I stand alone. But I feel the breath behind me. And they immediately realize what is happening, standing in front of a dusty mirror in which only me is reflected. Well, that's what makes me cover myself with cold. Then I feel the breath behind me. I slowly turn around, but the room seems different, as if the walls have become almost air heavier and the light from the window dimmer. Hell, maybe I'm just messing with myself. But then why do I keep hearing someone's footsteps, even though I'm here alone? I'm worried about the house, hoping to find at least some clue. Kostya's phone is dead. But I find a notebook in his backpack. Rebuild the records. Everyone smiles. Always. Even in tears. I saw a man hit his finger with a hammer. He didn't even scream. He just looked at his broken hand and smiled. At night, footsteps outside the windows, breathing heard, they're waiting. Final entry. I realized what's wrong. If I don't go out tomorrow, my end date is 50 to go black. I need to talk to the locals. They're waiting for me when I go outside. The store is crowded with villagers. Men, women, even they all smile broadly. "Did you find what you were looking for?" Slavka's grandmother asks. I swallow hard. Where the bones man from the middle takes a step forward, his face in a mad grin. But in his eyes of emptiness, he is with us. "What do you mean, where is he?" He smiles, a chill runs down my spine. I have to go. I turn to the car. "You're staying, right?" A child's voice is heard. In front of me, is a girl of the age of the family. She has huge blue eyes and a terrifying wide smile.
I don't answer. Just take a step further. Voices behind the tar step becomes a very quiet step, and then I hear lips parted.
Smile. I break the raid, jerk open the car door, start the engine. There is already a crowd on the road. Smile, Colossus sounds simultaneously in unison, as if it were one person speaking from dozens of mouths. I push the gas in. The car rushes forward, but before I break past them, I see his Kostya standing in the middle of the crowd. He's looking right at me, and he's smiling. I don't know how I managed to leave. I only remember when the fork was on the gas, how the villagers parted, but they didn't stop smiling.
Bones. His face, the headlights, his empty eyes, his dead frozen grin. He didn't even try to stop me. How would you know it's pointless? As if I had already lost. Now I have locked all the doors in my apartment, closed the windows, even jammed the bathroom mirror with newspapers. But since I returned from Lugovoy, I don't feel normal.
Sometimes I feel like I'm still there. People seem to be on the street. When I look at passers-by, I have the feeling that they are smiling. Even if there is no smile on their faces, I feel it. I began to avoid mirrors, because one day, when I did look into one, I saw that I was smiling. I don't remember when I started. I don't remember why. But now that smile doesn't go away. What if it never goes away? What if the bones didn't disappear? What if he just,
was home really like me? I always knew there was something wrong with her.
No, but when your grandmother lives in a remote village, strangeness becomes the norm. Talking to cats, whispering something before going to bed, leaving pieces of bread on the windowsill for those who pass by. Well, what a grandmother is a grandmother. But this evening she called me Vovochka. Her voice was barely audible, as if from the other side of the earth. Pick me up, dear grandmother. What are you talking about? Pick me up from the cemetery, I froze. The faster it gets dark. I can't stay here, and Gudki's grandmother died. 3 years ago, I was trembling while driving down a poorly maintained country road. It might seem silly, who knows? Maybe it was someone's idea of a joke. Yet his voice was eerily realistic. As I approached the old cemetery on the village outskirts, the fog was thickening, twilight settling in, swirling around tombstones, hovering between fine trees. There she was, standing at her grave. I wasn't breathing alive. She was wearing the same clothes we buried her in. A black dress, gray scarf, her eyes glittering in the light of the headlights. Grandma smiled. I swallowed it. Who else are you, granddaughter? She laughed affectionately. You buried me yourself. It's not a joke. You're freezing. I'm here, Vovochka. Let's go home. Her voice was warm and familiar. She even shook her head as she did when angry. I needed to run. I should have shut the car door, turned around, and set the forest ablaze. But I just opened the door silently.
Grandma slowly sat in the passenger seat, smelling of damp earth.
Along the narrow road she sat quietly, looking out the window. Good here. Suddenly she said that Grandma was good here. She repeated it, but her voice was her voice. I saw out of the corner of my eye how she turned her head. She didn't blink. I hit the gas.
Is Maya's grave well maintained? She asked.
Well groomed. They didn't forget me. I couldn't answer because my grandmother. She smiled. She stretched cubes of cubes. It was like learning to smile again. I almost ran off the road. We reached her house. I didn't want to go in, but my grandmother was already opening the door.
Pass him, she said with disdain. She didn't turn the knob.
She leaned forward, her forehead hitting the door. Once?
Click. The door opened at 23. She straightened up, but there was nothing there.
Why did you freeze? Come on. I went in. The house has changed. The same table, the same lamp. Everything is in its place. As usual, she never died. Grandma went to the stove. Will you have tea? Ouch. She, Bedlina, turned her head 180 degrees that my granddaughter backed away. She smiled and suddenly took a step toward me, but not with her feet. She took a full step, as if she had been pushed forward. An invisible wind. I rushed towards Vovochka's door. Her voice came from all sides. You brought me here yourself. You won't abandon Grandma. Bez slammed the door and ran to the car, but the light was already on in the window of the house, and there she was. She was smiling and waving at me. I don't know who I brought that night, but in the morning, her house was standing in the village again, which was demolished 3 years ago. And there was a light in the window and the smell of tea